Despite the fact that the BMP-3 was a quite advanced vehicle for its time, and it still is a decent IFV today, there are still a notable amount of drawbacks which answer the question of why not the BMP-3. These drawbacks have led to criticism from military analysts and the crews who actually operate it. And in today's video, I want to tell you more about these drawbacks. So hello and welcome to the Bobi and Tanks YouTube channel and enjoy this video. Looking in terms of protection, many BMP-3 units lack spall liners. If you don't know what spall liners are, they are basically a protection for the crew for when an armored vehicle is hit by a projectile. The impact can cause fragments of the armor, which in this context is called spall, to break off and become lethal inside the vehicle. Spall liners prevent these fragments from injuring the crew, and this protection is what the BMP-3 doesn't provide. There are a few objects inside the vehicle which could serve as quote-unquote spall liners though. Another issue is that the BMP-3's mine protection is not up to modern standards. This is not ideal considering the fact that the BMP-3 is currently being used in Ukraine and the combined size of all minefields in Ukraine are 4 to 5 times bigger than all of Switzerland, meaning there are 174,000 square kilometers full of mines. Switzerland is only about 41,000 square kilometers big. Looking at the engine, the UTD-29 diesel engine is often seen as unreliable because it breaks down a lot. The rather complex weaponry and fire control systems of the BMP-3 also require a lot of constant upkeep in order to stay functional. The BMP-3's engine tends to overheat in extremely hot weather, as observed during trials in the UAE. The cooling system is only suitable for the hottest conditions in a European climate. Since those trials, a more efficient cooling system has been developed and is now installed on the BMP-3s operated by the UAE. Besides that, the transmission system is also considered outdated compared to Western IFVs such as the CV90 or the Bradley. This is because it has less efficient power distribution and breaks down more often, which makes it less combat ready. Talking about efficient distribution, the weight distribution and ground pressure can often be the reason for getting stuck. That is because, compared to other IFVs like the Bradley or the Puma, the BMP-3 tracks are very narrow, which increases ground pressure. This makes it sink easier in muddy terrain and makes it get stuck. Another issue are the commander's periscopes, which he needs to do just about anything when it comes to effectively operating the BMP-3. There are 2 TNPO-170A periscopes and 2 additional TNPA-65 periscopes mounted in the commander's cupola. The TNPO-170As face the front, while the TNPA-65s face the sides. This means these 4 periscopes combined cover the 200-degree frontal sector of the commander's visibility, which according to Soviet testing are used 95% of the time when in combat. Here comes the problem. All of the commander's periscopes are heated by the RTS heating system to prevent fogging in cold weather. All except the TNPA-65 periscopes. This means his primary view will be greatly obstructed in cold weather, which is not very desirable in combat situations. The BMP-3 is equipped with the TKN-3MB for the commander. This sight can operate in 2 modes, active infrared imaging or passive light intensification. The active infrared imaging uses infrared light to see in the dark, for which the special infrared spotlight on the BMP-3 must be turned on. The passive light intensification enhances the light which is already available, such as starlight or moonlight for example. During daytime, it can identify targets from up to 3,000 meters away, depending on the weather. But during nighttime, using only the night vision modes, the BMP-3 can only identify targets from up to 400 meters away in the worst conditions. As you might have noticed, for an IFV which entered service at the very end of the Cold War, these night vision capabilities were not good at all. In this regard, the BMP-3 could not keep up with the modern thermal imaging systems which had already become standard for its Western counterparts. Just like in all other Soviet IFVs and tanks, the BMP-3's commander can designate a target for the gunner by simply pressing a button with his thumb. This will automatically rotate the turret to the designated target. Since the cupola is inside the turret, the cupola has a counter-rotating motor to keep the commander facing the target while the turret spins to face it as well. The problem is, this system doesn't really work well because there is a slight error in the counter-rotating mechanism. The target designation feature is infeasible for actually laying the gun on target. Rather, what this feature does is to put the gunner in visual contact with the target. The rest is entirely up to the gunner once he has the target in his sight. Looking at the armament of the BMP-3, there are a few issues as well. The gun barrel can present somewhat of an issue when firing for a longer period of time. This is because the light and thin barrel can deform and stretch, which can negatively impact the accuracy and performance of fired projectiles. For example, the rotation speed of the projectile might change, which can lead to more unpredictable shots. Also, when firing at large areas using indirect fire, the accuracy seen in direct fire doesn't apply. The impact area becomes much larger because of the distance. When shooting at a distance, vertical spread becomes depth spread, and horizontal spread becomes width spread. However, the impact area mainly grows longer in depth, but not wider because of the distance. According to the KBP website and a 1988 BMP-3 technical book, HE frag shells from the 2A70 gun have a dispersion of 10 meters at a range of 2000 meters. The newer rounds are more precise with 20% less dispersion. In trials in Turkmenistan, the BMP-3 using the 3UOF-17 shell had an average circular error probability of 25 meters at a range of 4000 meters. This means that 50% of the shells hit within a 50-meter circle at that distance. For the newer 3UOF-19 shells, the CEP should be around 22 meters at 4000 meters, but this might be an underestimate because of their better aerodynamics and higher velocity. The 2A70 cannon performs well at long distances despite being low velocity, but its 100mm shells are easily affected by wind, making it harder to predict accuracy at shorter ranges based on long-range performance. The average lifetime of the BMP-3's 2A72 cannon is problematic too. According to the manufacturer, the 2A72 is rated for only 6,000 shots and 9,000 shots if it undergoes the modernization program. In comparison to the BMP-3's Western counterparts, this is not very high. Initial issues with the BMP-3 also regarded the 30mm cannon. At the beginning, it was only supplied with these rounds which were also used in the BMP-2. The HE ammunition was good, but the APT on the other hand was no longer good enough, considering the fact that in the late 1980s and early 1990s, NATO IFVs like the Bradley, for example, had additional heavy steel applique armor plating. This armor was thick enough to resist the 30mm APT rounds at point-blank range. Therefore, there was a serious need for better ammunition for the 2A72 autocannon. This need was not fulfilled for many years until the 3UBR8 Kerner APDS round became available. For engagements at shorter distances, the BMP-3's 100mm cannon has some disadvantages. To explain this better, I will compare it to the American Bradley. The Bradley has an advantage when engaging a single target at short range. It has two ready-to-fire missiles in a launch pod which allows it to fire two missiles quickly at the same target, therefore increasing the chance of a hit. For example, at 1 kilometer, a TOW missile takes just 5 seconds to reach the target, meaning two missiles can hit an enemy tank within 10 seconds. Meanwhile, the BMP-3 can only fire one missile in the same amount of time because the second missile wouldn't be ready to fire yet. Talking about missiles, let's talk about the BMP-3's ATGMs. The three ATGMs available for the BMP-3 are the 9M117, the 9M117M, and the 9M117M1. The problem is with the 9M117 missile. With a penetration power of 550mm rolled homogeneous armor, it was already outdated when introduced for the BMP-3. That was because NATO tanks had started using composite and reactive armor. This type of armor made NATO tanks nearly immune to such missiles from the front. Based on recent data from Syria, the 9M117 missiles might have been effective against earlier models of the Abrams tank, such as the M1 to M1A1, and the early models of the Leopard 2, such as the 2A0 to 2A4 tanks. But that would have only been if they were hit from the sides. The use of this missile is not well documented, but by now it has likely been completely replaced by the 9M117 M1 Arakan missile. The BMP-3 was first used in combat in January 1, 1995, during an assault on the Grozny hospital. In this battle, 11 BMP-3s were destroyed by mines, buried explosive and mortar fire along with several tanks. Over the first 6 months of fighting, 20 to 30 BMP-3s were likely destroyed, with most of the 163 destroyed IFVs being older BMP-1s and 2s and BMD-1s and 2s. The BMP-3s were mainly destroyed by mines or RPG fire. In this regard, the BMP-3 was not better than the BMP-1 and the BMP-2. It was just as bad as the rest. The war in Chechnya showed that the BMP-3, like the other Soviet-era equipment, is not effective in asymmetrical warfare. It is vulnerable to large mines and IEDs, which it wasn't designed to withstand in the first place. Now, this is probably what most of you have been waiting for me to say. The very weird and unusual way for the troops to exit the vehicle. Troops often complain about the difficult exit method of the BMP-3. Unlike IFVs with large powered rear hatches like the M2 Bradley, Marder or Warrior, the BMP-3 requires more effort to exit. Soldiers must open the top hatches, swing open the rear hatches and then jump out, which is very difficult to do while wearing full combat gear. On top of that, stepping onto the engine deck from the passenger compartment is difficult too. Anyways, that was all I had to say for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you think I said anything that is not right or you think I should have added any additional information to this video, please let me know in the comments and share your knowledge. Besides that, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.